Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of the Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, AR, the Ohio Patriot, and founder of the Ohio Patriot Education Network. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about the assault on the Second Amendment and political runs and politicians and platforms and stuff like that. So basically, I was watching AK or Awk Nation, I think I say pronounced the guy's name. Uh, his stream a little bit ago, here for about the last hour or so. And one thing I thought was very interesting, and it's one of the chicks that comes on that dude's panel quite a bit. And this is one of I've actually been on that guy's panel like once or twice is what it was. I think it was actually twice now I think about it. And it was the second time. It was a while. I never go back, honestly. And it's because there was I had like a huge like hubbub with a bunch of people on that is what it was. Um, Mostly because I said one thing, some other people said some other stuff, and then the chick like jumped in on me and was like trying to compare basically the stats of the United States of America of 330 plus million people to the stats of I think it's someplace like Switzerland that has like a few million is what it is. So it'd be like the size of like a state compared to the actual United States of America. And yeah, and I think it was the same chick that was talking all the nonsense there and whatnot. But it was interesting because she was talking about fake ass Republicans and stuff like that. And like people trying to be like pro life Republicans or whatever the case be, and then if you really gave a shit or whatever, you would just like be on board with abortion and like sterilization and stuff, and it's like what the fuck, like I couldn't believe what I was hearing out this woman's mouth, dude, and it's like Jesus Christ, lady, like you got some fucking issues for sure. And what's even more fucked up is so within that dude's stream, like she calls for like basically um abortion slash sterilization of some parts of the population, and then within the next like 20 minutes or so is saying, "Oh yeah, now we got these mentorship programs because they were like looking at a bunch of stories about mentorship programs and stuff like that." And she's like, "Oh yeah, some of this could work to help these kids out." And it's like, "Well, which is it, lady? Are you fucking all about the sterilization and stopping these kids from ever being born? Are you actually cool with them being born, being an innocent human life, which is what most people like myself are all about, is what it is, and giving them a chance to actually succeed in life through something like that, or is it?" Just like, okay, write them off or not write them off. Like, which is it, honestly? So, yeah, it's very like, I guess I almost say bipolar-ish at that point. I don't think that chick is, but like the entire point is it's like, yeah, you got like flip sides of a coin at that point where it's like, like for like a minute here you're talking about like sterilizing people and shit like that, and then it's like the flip side of the coin like 10 minutes after that is like, no, actually this totally could work and stuff like that, and like the biggest problem I have with that dude, that AK guy, is was the fact that he's like always talking about there being no solutions and stuff like that. And it's like, pretty sure that every fucking possible solution that's not been implemented in this country, dude. Like, if we actually took the taxpayer money and did some of these things at a actual large scale, maybe you would have a fucking solution in that situation, or maybe you have multiple solutions in that situation. But because you're not doing that stuff, it's very much, in the vein of like, okay, you got one here, one there, and like four or five different, cities or states, whatever it is. Versus if you had that at a mass scale and stuff like that, you'd have a better solution, is what it is, dude. You'd have an actual solution to a major problem in this country, is what it is. And I think, and this is something I've talked about with my own possible political runs and stuff like that in the past, what the biggest issue is that we are not investing in the next generation of kids when it comes to trades and stuff like that, dude. Where if you actually did the shit the correct way and stuff is what it is, you would have our educational system basically starting out like a normal education system up until like the fifth grade, essentially, is what it is. And then it would be sixth, seventh, eighth, and all the way through high school. You would essentially have these kids on a 6-year trade program path, with the last 2 years being, obviously, junior and senior years, having these kids in actual shops, whether it be, a mechanic shop, working with plumbers, being in a fucking butcher shop, whatever the case be, being an apprentice there to cut meat and whatnot. And you would actually have these kids in these places getting on the job training throughout most of the rest of their high school years, is what it is, dude. And I think that's the problem right now, is that we're not actually bringing forth those things. And you have these, these possible solutions to problems like that of, the literal gang violence in this country, which is what it is, honestly, most of the time, where it's, murders or shootings, or whatever the case be. And that's the problem I have with the mainstream media entirely right now, dude, because, you can look at any, bought and paid for mainstream media in this country right now, which when you do the actual, like, that's the thing. You look back to, Operation Mockingbird in the 1970s and stuff like that, when they started doing that stuff, where it was basically them all reading out the same script as what it is. And it's why you always hear, like, every time in the news, it's all like, oh, it's gun violence this or it's gun violence that. And it's just an attack on the Second Amendment is all it is, dude. It's literally an assault on the Second Amendment is what it is. Because when in reality, what it is either a murder or it's a fucking robbery or it's, a gangland shooting, whatever the case be. But they'll never call it that is what it is. There's always like, no, it's got to be it's got to be gun violence and stuff like that. It's never gang violence, by the way. It's never just violence entirely, which is what it is at the end of the day. And in most cases, it's actually nonsensical violence. But they'll never call it that because they know if they do, it actually busts their fucking narrative and it doesn't give the anti-gunners an actual win is what it is, which is in most cases what it is actually. Because when you look at what we're seeing in society nowadays, you have this fucked up leftist narrative where they control the media, at least the mainstream anyway. They control the, schools for the most part, public education specifically, and a few other things. And it's why you always have these Democrats and everybody else like that, these fucking rhino sacks of shit as well at that point, who are siding with these motherfuckers and stuff. That's why I'm so pissed off right now here in Ohio of them trying to fuck around with our backpack bill and what should have been a great expansion to school choice and actually giving kids vouchers and having the parents and the kids have the actual voucher to choose where they want to go, if they want to go to public education or if they want to go to private schools or, some academy or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, honestly, some Christian academy or something like that for that matter, or even, any other one for that kind of matter. It could have been some, Jewish school or something like that. It's like a private education system or something. But the entire point is, because you're not allowing these people to do that stuff, you're forcing the taxpayer money that's coming out of my pocket and every other Ohioan's pocket that pays taxes, back into a bullshit fucking broken ass public education system that is nothing more than public indoctrination at this point, dude. That is nothing more than anti-white racism through garbage shit like CRT slash critical race theory. Fucking 1619 Project, which is nothing more than a bunch of made up fake history. Other horse shit along those same lines, like fucking, all the trans indoctrination of these little kids, all the fucking basically telling kids they're pieces of shit because of the color of their skin is what it is, dude. And I'm just sick and tired of all of it, honestly, dude. And I've been sick and tired of all of it for a long time, honestly, dude. And I think a lot of people waking up to it as well at this point in time history, dude. It's the same thing with the, overall violence in this country, the criminality in this country, where you have people who have finally woken up to the bullshit at this point, and they've just had enough of it, is what it is. And that's why you're seeing more people fighting back now. That's why you saw the fucking guy in Houston, Texas, smoked that motherfucking robber in that little, whatever it was, tequila restaurant or whatever the hell it was. Same thing with, the guy there in Canton, Ohio the other day, who they had some dude break into their fucking house. Guy tried to grab a fucking kitchen knife from their kitchen, like I'm guessing like a butcher's block, whatever it was. And the homeowner was able to wrestle it away from him and fucking stabbed him to death with it, is what it was, dude. Or you have anything else for that matter where it's just, it's self-defense encounter with a firearm, or it's self-defense encounter with any kind of weapon, a knife, a bat, whatever it is, dude. It doesn't matter, honestly. And it's because people are sick and tired of it. They're not putting up with it anymore, dude. And then, of course, you also have all the other crazy shit going on now where it's, various fucking shootings in a mall, or as that AK Guys panel was talking about a few minutes ago here before I started filming this, you had, I believe it was 3 or 4 guys that were out shopping somewhere. I forget what state it was in. And you had 2 dudes literally chilling out in like a fucking alleyway waiting for them to come past and then ambush, rob, and kill them. Now, granted, not all of them are dead yet. You have one in critical condition. You have another one, I think, who is going to survive. But the other 2, like, lost their lives is what it was. And it's like, what the fuck, man? And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is the kind of insane shit, by the way, that I hear this kind of stuff. And this is why I carry every fucking time I leave the house, and why there's a gun within arm's reach of me right now. If not more than one, for that matter, depending on where I'm at in this house right now. Because of the fact that it's like, there is no reason to ever be a victim, especially not in your own home for that matter. And especially after being, like I said, robbed. It was about 18, 19 months ago now. It was July of 2021 was when the house was broken into. So it's been, going on 2 years now is what it is. They still have yet to find the guys. They still have yet to recover my firearm that was stolen that day, which really fucking pisses me off because that was my competition rimfire rifle. It was just a basic bitch fucking MP1522, but it's like, it's something that I put my hard-earned fucking money into to get, and these fucking cocksuckers just break into my home and steal it is what it is, dude. So, yeah, it's like, it pisses me off 100%, dude, and that should piss everybody off, honestly, that's ever had their firearm stolen from them is what it is, dude, because it's like, you put down your hard-earned money on something to protect yourself and your family, or something that you want to have, for fun, whatever the case be, or like in my case, I want to do competition shooting with what it was, but obviously it was also a plinker out in the backyard and stuff as well. And it could have been used as a little squirrel gun or something like that during hunting seasons as well, because you can use that stuff on squirrel or small game like rabbit and shit like that. You can use 22, and it's bullshit because now I have no ability to replace that. I don't have a lot of money. I just can't replace it outright because the thing of it was, dude, it's not like it's a cheap fucking gun. That thing costs like, I think even on sale most of the time it's like over $400. And right now outside of sales and stuff, it's like $500-600 for what I would need to do to it, honestly. And for what it was worth, it was at least $600 because all the stuff I put on it and whatnot, like all the extra little you know, sling swivel, flip up sights, etc., on there, dude. So, but yeah, it's just a bunch of shit entirely. And it's also why I really wish that the fucking Republican Party here would get its act together and not be a divided fucking house right now, because it would be nice to actually have a piece of legislation introduced right now in this General Assembly here, currently in Ohio, that would actually address stuff like that. People having their firearms stolen and being able to get reimbursed for them if they're not found within X amount of time is what it would be, dude. And then, of course, if that gun was ever found and stuff like that, then it would basically become property of the state is what it is. Or it would be, you could actually put another thing in there as well, where it would be, if you would like to buy this gun back or whatever, since it was originally your property or whatever the case, you've already gotten like reimbursed by the state, if that be the case, you can legally buy it back from the state as well. It just costs like whatever the price would be of like the value of it and stuff like that. Because obviously that would be something for like an antique gun or something like that, where you would need like, you would want like the monetary value of it, but you don't want to give up the gun is what it is. But yet it's been, a year or two since they've, it's gone missing because it was stolen or whatever the case be, and they still haven't found the people that took it or whatever it is. And that's the whole point entirely. With mine, it wouldn't be an issue because it would just be, an off the rack kind of thing is what it is, dude. And that's really what it'd be. The bill would basically be based around. It's like, hey, this is for people that just had their weapons stolen. That's just a common use firearm is what it is. And we just want it back, basically. But if you would ever find the one that was stolen from us, who the hell knows what's been done to that? Who the hell knows if it even functions anymore? If the firing pin's busted in, or if the fucking receivers broke, like any part of the receivers fucked up or cracked or whatever, or et cetera, et cetera. It could be any kind of problems at that point. The trigger might be fucking, dunzo. Uh, you never know, man. The extractor might have busted out of it for all I know. Who knows? And that's the thing. And, like I've said before on camera several times, with my particular rifle that was stolen, because of my autistic ass, because obviously I have autism is what it is, I kept round counts on that gun, dude. I kept every single version of 22 that I used through that gun and exact round counts of how much I used of it, because I wanted to know if I ever had a failure, like what round it was on and what I was using at the time is what it was, dude, for different variations, for different variants of 22 is what it is. And the problem with that now is, being missing, because it was stolen, obviously, for over 18 months now, going on 2 years is what it is now. It's a situation here of, I have no idea if anything was ever fired through it after that. I have no idea how much was fired through it after that. I know exactly what was in it when it was stolen, which was a loaded 25 round mag. Because again, I didn't expect to have my fucking home broken into, have my shit stolen, what it was, dude. And ironically enough, had I been home that day, sorry, I got a piece of junk in my mouth or something. Yeah, it was on my lip there. But anyway, yeah, if I had known what was going to happen that day and I had been home and stuff, it would have been a totally different scenario, dude, because I probably would have used that gun on the fucking intruders or what it is, dude. and probably grabbed a second gun on the way out the fucking door is what it is, dude. Probably grabbed a handgun backup, honestly, just in case the rimfire fails is what it is, dude. I grabbed a centerfire handgun. So, but yeah, it's just a bunch of shit entirely, dude. And that's the thing. Like, I would have been truthfully, I would have been a test case then for the actual stand your ground legislation that's in law right now in Ohio, if that had happened. And it just saddens me that in some cases I wasn't here because, like I said, it could have gone a whole different way, is what it is, man. Now, granted, I've gone over these scenarios myself before several times and whatnot, and it also could have gone a whole different way for me as well. It could have been, I could have been sleeping at the time or whatever, where they broke in and I wasn't awake until they were right on top of me, is what it was. So it could have been a bad deal all the way around. But the problem is, again, I'll never know that because, I'm not a fucking, like, I'm just this version of me. I'm not, 1,000 different versions of me in 1,000 different scenarios and 1,000 different universes where this happened to me, is what it is. Because if it was that way, I'm sure some of my versions actually did fight back, and some of them probably did survive, and some of them probably, had to take two people's lives in self-defense, is what it is. And meanwhile, maybe others didn't survive, is what it was. Be kind of like that show Rick and Morty, where there's like infinite versions of all these guys and stuff like that. And you have some that are just will die or whatever the case be, and then the others that'll be surviving and stuff like that. What it is, or you'll have evil versions of each other and stuff like that. What it is, then, dude. So yeah, it just, like I said, either way, it just bothers the shit out of me, is what it is, man. Because again, it's one of those things where you think you're safe. You think you're safe in a rural area that you've grown up in and you've lived your entire life, only to be the target of a robbery, is what it is, dude. And we know for a fact it was a target of robbery just because, going back to May of that year, when I was outside, literally in the backyard rain shooting, and I turned back and there's two fucking guys on my mailbox literally staring at me, and I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? Get the fuck out of here, kind of thing. Didn't say that to him, just gave him like a dead stare of like, what the fuck you doing? Get the fuck away from my property, is what it is, dude. And then they just kept walking, and I think that's what it was, dude. They knew I had a firearm, and that's where they were waiting for us to leave, and then they broke into the house and stole, is what it was. And given the fact that it was the month before that we had a catalytic converter stolen off of our van, I think it was the same guys there as well. And the fact that it was literally the house over that way, where you had the garage of that place that was like basically an apartment on top of it that was being rented out, and you had that actually be raided in August of 2021 by, it was basically a sheriff SWAT team and like a bunch of local cops and stuff like that, and county sheriff, etc. there. And it's like, and the fact that we've never had anything else after that was criminal around, like criminality stuff around here, is what it was. It's like, it all makes sense if it was all coordinated and stuff like that, which really does piss me off that they never found my firearm then, because I assumed it was over there, honestly, the whole time. But apparently not. It might have been there for like a day, for all I know. Hell, it might have been some dudes selling fucking drug debt for all the fuck I know, dude. And then that dude, that was busted or whatever, maybe sold it off to somebody else, and that person now has it, or maybe they sold it to somebody else, and it's gone through 3, 4, 5 hands now, for all the fuck I know, is what it is, dude. So anyway, but going full circle back to what I was saying early on and stuff like that. The thing with political runs, the thing with political platforms, the thing with people running for office, civil servants, politicians, whatever you want to call them at that point, depending on what they are. Sometimes they're politicians, sometimes they actually are civil servants and actually want to serve the people, is what it is. People like myself would be a civil servant, obviously, if I ever ran for office, is what it is. But the entire point I'm trying to make is that you have some individuals who, yeah, they might claim to be pro-life, but then they'll sit there and like bullshit or whatever the case be and force taxpayers to pay a bunch of crap, is what it is. The problem is you will never, ever, ever, ever see anybody run a political platform for office where their political platform is basically population control / sterilization, dude, because that's what it really is at the end of the day, what that chick was advocating for on that panel. And I guarantee you, if they did, they would be running out of town on the rails, depending on where they're at, honestly, dude, because it's like, especially if you're running like a pro-life state and stuff like that, like, good luck getting elected, dude. And, God forbid you're, a white person running on a kind of platform of like sterilization, like, across the board, I'm guessing it would be, honestly, the way it was being brought up there and stuff. but it almost sounded like it was more like targeted sterilization in some cases by that chick as well. And it's like, yeah, good luck not being called a fucking racist and having the mainstream media smear the shit out of you on that one for that, dude. So, yeah, seriously. But, you know, I think the real problem is, and again, and it's something that people never touch on in that specific panel, honestly, and it's because they always want to go talk about the, stories of the day kind of thing is what it is, news stories and shit. Water supply in this country is a huge problem right now, dude. When you have, all kinds of forever chemicals in the water supply, anything from estrogen to, you know, anything that doesn't flush out and stuff like that, or doesn't get, replaced out in treatment plants and stuff like that, is going to cause issues in this country. And it's why you're seeing so many young boys want to be young girls now or be, pushed into that lifestyle is what it is. Or it's why you have all these young girls now claiming to be trans men and stuff like that. And a lot of it very much is, forever chemicals in the water supply or just other crap in the water supply, big pharma drugs, other drugs, actual street drugs, et cetera, et cetera. Not to mention the fluoride, the mercury, all that stuff like that is what it is. The lead in the fucking pipes in a lot of cases also leads to some of that shit as well. It leads to the, denigration of intelligence is what it is. And the real issue becomes that until that stuff's being actually addressed and dealt with accordingly, which is taking it the fuck out or, figuring out a way to remove it from the actual, water supply and stuff like that, you're going to keep having people be dumbed down again and again and again, generation after generation after generation. And the problem is, some people will say it's DNA and stuff like that. Not always, actually. It sometimes is just environmental is what it is, dude. It's just like the same thing with, people wanting to claim like DNA of why, oh, you got a kid born to, some, bad parent or whatever the case be, and some other kid's going to turn out bad. Not always the case, dude. Again, it depends on how they're actually raised. Are they raised at all for that matter by a parent or parents for that matter? Because if not, then yeah, if it's going to be the fucking, the streets raising them and stuff like that, and, older friends or, older relatives of friends or whatever the case be, like, who the fuck's to say how the kid's going to end up, honestly? And I think that's the biggest problem right now. You don't know how that's going to happen, dude. And I think, honestly, that's the problem right now with our country in a nutshell is the fact that we don't have enough mentorship programs in place right now across this country in every single state. Because if you did, you would see crimes and criminals go from up here to way the fuck down here, man. Now, granted, you can make the case, obviously, going back to the whole Roe versus Wade thing in the 70s. That's why you had, the, downtick in violent crime in the 90s and stuff like that, because there was so many kids aborted between the 70s and the 90s and stuff like that, dude. And so they weren't, alive in their, teens and 20s, etc., to actually go out there and commit crimes is what it was. Now, granted, that being said, you could use the flip side of that coin as well and say that had nothing to do with it at all. And it was just the fact that you actually had law and order being respected again in this country back then. And I think that's another problem right now. And it goes back to the outside factor kind of things with the Soros DAs and stuff like that, dude. The actual, Bilderberg fucking bought and paid for puppets in this country, whether it be, the actual George Soros paid DAs who are being funded by his, campaign money and stuff like that, where he's just literally throwing, millions of dollars here and there at campaigns and shit during election cycles and getting these people into office or whatever. The issue becomes when you have people like Mike Schmidt there in Portland or anybody else for that matter. Kim Fox is another one of those people in Illinois. You've had, was it George Gascon in LA there, and a few others here and there, and there's a bunch more as well. I think Jose Garza was another one of these fuckers that was a Soros bribe puppet to get in office. He's the one that's now trying to fuck over Daniel Perry for the self-defense shooting that Daniel Perry had to do in the riots of 2020 versus Garrett Foster. You have that particular case where you had the, Austin police at the time even told Daniel Perry, they were straight up, they were like, dude, you did nothing wrong. You 100% have stand your ground on your side. You have castle doctrine on your side. You're in the state of Texas. You are legally armed. You are legally able to be armed, etc. Because the guy had like a CCW is what it was, or whatever the hell they call it there, like license to carry, whatever it is. And the entire point of the matter was there's a reason why he wasn't charged initially. And it's because he should not have been charged initially, or shouldn't have been charged at all for that matter. And it wasn't until fucking little anchor baby Jose Garza got in office there in the 2020 election cycle that all of a sudden Garza's like, no, we're totally going to try fucking Daniel Perry now for this dude's fucking death, even though it was 100% justifiable homicide, even though it was 100% a self-defense encounter. It's like, no, they're going to try for murder now. It's fucking bullshit, dude, entirely. And again, it goes back to Soros fucking money, dude. And that's the problem right now. When you have these fucking shithead DAs like that, these fucking lefty ass DAs like that, and these leftist ass cities like that, these major cities across America, all these Democrat run hell pockets, you have a problem in this nation that literally goes back to the fact that what you end up with is you end up with people who do not give a fuck about the law because they're being bought and paid for to let criminals out the fucking hook every single time. And because of that, you end up in a situation where because they're letting these criminals off the hook or they're letting them off with like really light sentences where it should be, you know, a 10, 15, 20-year felony, they're letting them off with a slap on the wrist of like a 1-year probation, like maybe like a 3-year probation misdemeanor or some shit like that. If you even any probation at all for that matter, dude, in those cases, you're just allowing this revolving door to continue on to where you're letting criminals back on the streets. It's the same exact thing with New York right now, dude, with their bail fund and the bail reform they have there is what it is, dude. When you put in this bail reform law that is so fucking retarded and you have people who will go there and do crazy ass shoplifting, well, they'll shoplift tens of thousands of dollars a fucking day from various places like CVS and Walgreens, etc. And then they'll get busted for stuff like that sometimes. And they end up getting let right back out on the streets because they don't have to pay any bond, is what it is. And then, you know, a day later or 2 days later, or even the same fucking day for that matter, they'll go kill somebody. And then they'll be arrested for fucking murder, is what it is, dude. It's like, what the fuck, man? Or just like that one guy. There was one that I showed on this channel a while ago. It was that crazy motherfucking guy from New York. It was some little, I believe she was some little Asian woman that was she had walked into her building and was about to get on the elevator. And you had this fucking big ass black dude come up behind her and just fucking wham. And he knocked her out cold with that first hit. He just kept fucking wailing on her on the ground and shit, dude, for at least a good solid few minutes anyway. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man. And that's the problem right there, dude. And again, it goes back to these kind of major cities that don't have the ability for people to keep and bear arms. Because if you actually had the ability to defend yourself with a firearm, you wouldn't have victims like that, dude. Because the victims would actually be able to fight back against these fucking people. And they'd be able to take out the fucking trash just like the guy did in Houston, Texas, honestly, dude. And that's the entire point of the matter. And the entire fact of the matter, for that matter, is you have American citizens who are sick and tired of being the victim, dude. There is a reason why I personally am a gun owner here in the year of 2023, and I've been a gun owner for almost 5 years now. Actually, it's over 4 years now. It's about 4 years, 2 months now. But who's counting? I guess I am, honestly, on that one. But either way, is what it is. But, nah, seriously, though. There's a reason why I'm a gun owner in this country, dude. And it's because I was victimized when I lived in Columbus several times. I'm not going to go into detail of any of the things. Some of you guys know the stories already for some of the stuff. You know, I was almost jumped coming back from the convention center. I had to walk home the one time. You know, other things happened to me and stuff down there. And I don't like to bring up bad memories because there is things that I don't want to talk about on camera ever. And I won't talk about to people ever because it does sort of bring up a little bit of PTSD that I've suffered in my life. And I don't feel like going down that road again is what it is, dude. I've tried to fight that back now. And thankfully I'm in a good place currently. And I don't like to, you know, dwell on that shit too much because if I do, it will bring back, you know, just like basically these horrible dreams is what it is that I've suffered, you know, 4 years and stuff since then, dude. And yeah, you should know how bad it is when I'm talking about that stuff, man. And there are other people out there that experience similar things to what I experienced. And, you know, they've gotten through it. And thankfully, I'm getting through it, is what it is still to this day, you know, almost 10 years later now. But actually, it's a little bit later, a little bit longer than that now. It's more like 11 years now. Because last year was a decade. But the entire point is that, you know, again, it's stuff I don't like to bring up in my past, dude, because it just brings up bad memories, is what it is, of a really bad time in my life. So, anywho, the entire point though is that because of all those experiences, because, coming from a small town that was relatively safe and going into a major city that wasn't safe at all, I learned from that. And I will never be the victim again, ever, dude. I will never be the victim ever again, period. And I think a lot of other people are finally waking up to that fact too, dude, that you have to be your own first responder, that you have to be able to protect yourself from any danger, is what it is, dude. And it's why you had the uptick since the 2020 riots and stuff like that of people just buying guns like crazy every single month for, better part of over 2 years now. And, going on 3 years now is what it is. And I think one of the biggest things is when you have people going down that road, you end up in a situation where eventually you will be able to protect yourself or others at the time should come. And I think that's one of the best things about our nation, dude. And I think that's one of the best things about, the founders of this country. And, that leads me into something I actually want to talk about right now, which is First Amendment stuff. So, there's some people out there that will call themselves like absolutists when it comes to constitutional stuff or individual rights and stuff like that. That's what it is, dude. I think I've said it before. I'll say it again right now on camera, though. I am not a free speech absolutist, especially not on my YouTube channel, dude. If you say certain things that offend me or offend anybody else in the fucking chat, whether it be on my panels when I have people on the panels, or whether it be in the comment section, I will ban your ass from this channel, dude. Period. And just name a few things that will get you banned. Shit talking my weight, one of them. Shit talking my Christian values, another one of them. Talking any kind of shit about pro-life movements, dude, will also get you banned. Talking any kind of shit about the Second Amendment will also get your ass banned immediately. And some people do it for trolling reasons. And it's interesting that right as soon as I say that, all of a sudden a bot pops up in the chat. So that was crazy. It was almost like it was like a controlled bot too, because it was like just like three in a row. It didn't even like do any kind of time at all, dude. It was just like done as like a thing to do like 3 shots and like a single shot or whatever, if that be the case then. But yeah, they're blocked now. So, but that's another thing too, that, and actually it's interesting that, doing this now at 2 o'clock in the morning, like that's one thing I hadn't seen on YouTube for a while yet, is all the spam bots and stuff like that. All those like sex robots is what it is, dude. That are different, hackers and shit like that. Which again is another thing that's weird too, right? Because as far as I'm aware, what I'm looking at right now on the little, icon thing in the corner right here is what it is. It says there's 0 people watching this right now. So the fact that you have 0 people watching a stream, but yet somehow a bot comes up in there and makes no thing or whatever is very, very weird. The only thing I could think is I knew a little bit ago, probably about 15 minutes back now, there actually was somebody that popped in for like a minute or so, and I'm wondering if maybe that's what it was. It was like the actual like bot hacker people or whatever, and they're like, okay, if this stream goes for like X amount of time or whatever, it's just like execute order or whatever. If that be the case, there for their little algorithm shit, maybe that's what it was. My stream had gone long enough now to where it was like an automatic ping or something. If that be the case, it should make sense now. But again, if that be the case, then that's what YouTube needs to fucking figure out, dude, and just fix that shit if that be the case. Instead of actually shadow banning people, or instead of actually, censoring people's freedom of speech is what it is, dude. Like, deal with the fucking bullshit bots on this site, dude. The fucking the sex bots that just sit there and leave like live nude girls or fucking whatever the hell they say at this point. I'm not even sure what that one that just popped in here, the XXX one, said, but it doesn't matter, honestly. It's just bullshit entirely, dude. And it's like, again, the fact that I have to sit here and deal with that stuff on my own fucking channel, and then it's not just automatically like blocked for fucking being spam and stuff, is bullshit entirely. So, but yeah, like I said though, just to reiterate a couple things that will get you banned on this channel. Specifically, when I believe you're trolling, you'll get banned. And again, there's a broad definition of trolling. Some people will just do it to just be a dickhead, is what it is, and that is stuff that will get you banned, honestly. But that's one thing I will put up with for a little bit, is what it is. Like, just don't be an asshole about it, is what it is, dude. But yeah, if you're like directly shit talking like my weight, which I have had weight issues in my past, I still have weight issues in my current present, is what it is, dude. So if you're gonna fucking shit talk me on my weight, that I've dealt with my entire life, that I've had, serious fucking weight issues, that I've been trying to lose weight for, better part of my life at this point in history, dude. If you're gonna shit talk me like that, you're gone immediately, dude. Period. Like, I'm not putting up with that shit. Like I said, same thing if you want to be, anti two-way or talk shit on the Second Amendment, you're fucking done. Like that'll actually get you banned faster than talking shit on my weight, honestly. It will, dude, because again, I am a fucking absolutist on the Second Amendment when it comes to shall not be infringed, is what it is, dude. Period. So honestly, that I would say of every constitutional amendment in the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment is the only one I'm an absolutist about, is what it is, dude. First Amendment, yeah, I will be, somewhat of. However, the fact that this is my platform, this is my channel, and the way I look at it is it's basically me letting you into my home, more or less. There's just certain things you respect about a man's home. You don't put your feet up on their fucking furniture. You don't fucking, take a big old fucking stinky shit in their fucking toilet without, asking them first, et cetera, dude. If you could use their bathroom or whatever. And there's other certain things you don't do, man. So it's like, don't be coming on my stream and shitting on my stream, dude. Don't shit on my porch and call it chocolate, for real. And, don't piss in my face and tell me it's fucking raining. You know what I'm saying? Because if you do, you're going to get your asses banned, is what it is, dude. And I won't put up with it. You get one chance on this fucking channel, dude. Be fucking cool, and I'm going to be cool with you. Be a fucking dickhead during one of my streams, and find out how quick your ass gets banned, is what it is, dude. So, yeah, needless to say, like I said, my weight is off limits, Second Amendment is off limits, and my particular religious values of Christianity are off limits. And if you want to go into fucking things, again, you'll be done. So, because that's again the problem. Going back to the assault on the Second Amendment, there's also an assault on religion in this country, dude. Specifically Christianity. Specifically the fact that we were born as a nation based on Christianity, that people are now attacking it so hard is fucking ridiculous as well, dude. If it wasn't for our founders, most of them being of a Christian religious background, we wouldn't even be a country at this point, dude. If it wasn't for those specific men at that point in history in the 1770s, willing to fight for their nation, willing to fight to have a say, to be represented, etc., and to actually live free, we would not have the nation that we have today. We wouldn't have the nation where my ancestors came over here from places like Poland, because they were persecuted in Poland, by the way. I'm not sure if I ever told that story on this chats or not, but I will now, actually. So a couple years ago, I was talking to one of my cousins who is very elderly. She's in her late 90s. And she was telling me a story, actually, of how my mother's family escaped Poland right before Lenin took over. Like, literally within, less than 6 months before he took over. Like, it was right before that fucking dictatorship took over, is what it was. And the reason that they escaped was because for some time before that, literally at least a couple years as far as I'm aware it was, from the stories I've been told is what it is, they were living in Poland. They were on the cusp of the Polish-Russian border is what it was, because obviously that was basically where Poland and Ukraine meet, is what it is now. And what used to be, part of Russia at the time before it was all balkanized and stuff. And so you would have them over here on the Polish border, and you would have Russian forces over here on the Russian side of the border, and the Russian forces would sneak into Poland at night, kidnap my fucking family members, yank them back over to Russia, and basically use them as slaves, is what it was, for various work and shit. And then eventually what would happen is you would have Polish forces, come around from time to time and be like, why is this family gone? Why is that family gone? And they would, eventually, talk to their commanders and stuff like that. And a day or two went by or whatever it was. And they would basically be like, hey, these people were kidnapped by Russian forces, or they would figure out some way, they were kidnapped by Russian forces somehow is what it was. And you would have Polish forces then go into Russia at night and kidnap my family back is what it was. and along with other people that were taking at the time. And eventually, over the time span of X amount of time, like I said, most of like a couple of years from everything I've been told now, they eventually had this happen to them several times, if not several dozen times, to the point where they were like, enough is enough of this shit. And they figured out like what they could basically carry on their backs and stuff like that, what they had monetary wise and whatnot, how they could, they tried, I'm guessing they sold off some of their land is what it was at the time or whatever. And, or just, if they were, I'm not even sure if they were like sharecroppers or what they were, but that was what it was. But the entire point is they took any financial means that they had to take and what they could, take was what it was, and dipped the fuck out and got on a boat, came over here through Ellis Island, eventually, went through Ellis Island, stayed in New York for a little bit of time there, and then eventually trickled themselves down to Ohio is what it was for the most part. And of course, others, some stayed in, different parts of Ohio, others stayed in like New York and other states like that's what it was, dude, around that time. I think eventually most of them settled in New York, or most of them settled in the state of Ohio is what it was, though, because it was basically them starting to create a community here is what it was then. So, but yeah, and that's on my mother's side of or at least part of her family anyway, came here to the States is what it was. And I'm guessing that my father's side had similar instances because they were from Ireland and stuff like that, dude. Actually, part of mom's side is also Irish as well. And so, I'm sure there was other stuff along those lines because I've actually done lineage test over the years and stuff like that, and figured out that like at some point in my family's, ancestry, my Irish side was slaves, dude, legitimately. And so when you have all these fucking dumb motherfuckers like Nina Turner and stuff like that always bitching and moaning about like, and this is why people who were never slaves in America should somehow get reparations because my slavery. It's like, well, why don't you start with me then, bitch? Why don't you start with my family then, you fucking whore? Oh yeah, that's right, because you're a fucking commie piece of shit that only cares about your own skin color is what it is, because you're a racist piece of shit, lady. And that's why I'm so sick and tired of her ass at this point, dude, because Nina Turner is nothing more than a fucking communist advocate for Bernie Sanders' bitch ass is what it is, dude. And that's the biggest problem with that chick entirely. She did nothing for the state of Ohio when she was a state senator except push a bunch of commie bullshit here is what it was, dude. And thankfully, most of her bills never saw the light of day, is what it was, because again, even back then, we had Republican majorities in the state house, and they basically blocked that Democrat bullshit from ever making it to floor votes, is what it was, dude. I mean, I got a committee hearing here or there sometimes, but like it never got past that, is what it was. Thank God. But yeah, her whole thing now, if you ever go to her Twitter account now, it's basically just like, this is why communism is so fucking great kind of crap, except she doesn't say it outright like that. It's basically all kinds of other crap about like, and this is why $15 an hour minimum wage would work, or this is why $25 minimum wage would work, or something crazy like that is what it is, dude. Or just like spouting like all some other kind of dumbass commie nonsense is what it is, and it's just like, bitch, just shut the fuck up, seriously. So anyway. But yeah, I like to troll her quite a bit on social media though. So if you ever go onto Twitter and you see Ohio Patriot Education Network like giving shit to Nina Turner, it's always me behind the actual tweets. By the way, I like to point that one out. So anyway, but yeah, actually, I was looking at Taurus the other day because they have a new competition. Not competition. They have a new TX22 compact coming out. That's like a 13 round, so a 16 round, and it actually has a cool slide cut to it now. It's basically what the competition should have been, except, regular 16 round capacity is what it would have been then. And I actually asked Taurus a question the other day and they never did respond back to me about it because it was a 2-part question that I asked their Twitter account there about that gun. And the one was basically, hey, will this slide, be able to, go on the regular one is what it is, the actual original frame one is what it is. And will that 13 round version be able to take the 16 round mags is what it is then. And yeah, never heard anything back from them about that one. I'd like to know that honestly at this point because it would be sweet to know that. And I was thinking about it too because I was talking to people about it the other day and we were talking about the possibility of like somebody creating like a little like sleeve or whatever for the TX22 mags. The problem with that is that I was thinking about it after the fact. I don't know if the sleeve thing would work though because you have the little tabs on the side of those mags as like load assist tools is what it is. And because of that, if you would have something that they could like snag on, like a little teeny piece of, plastic, whatever the case be, or polymer, whatever it be made of there, of like 3D printed material, you might have an issue where you're like a round or two in, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell? The gun's like jamming up or something like that. And it's because it's the actual tab things or whatever catching on that piece of material is what it would be then for that extra piece for the sleeve for the 16 rounders and then the 13 round mag. So I don't know. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see though. It'd be interesting to see for sure. But yeah, I like the gun so far. I think it looks pretty cool. And it'll be interesting to see if it basically takes over for the competition model or not, and see which one actually has more traction then. Because obviously you got the TX22 competition that's been out for I think roughly about a year now, almost, if not quite about, yeah, I think it was about this time last year is when it came out. So the fact that it's got another year on top of it for uh sales versus this new one, obviously it's going to be behind the eight ball for the compact version. But overall, I think it's a pretty sweet looking gun, though. Honestly, dude. And if I had the money right now, I'd definitely get one of those. Honestly, just to try out. Honestly, is what it is, dude. And that way, I could actually see if my uh various questions will be answered with that. Even because I would just start testing shit as what it would be then, and seeing if stuff would actually be compatible or not then. But anyway, I do like Taurus a lot when it comes to guns and stuff like that. They're a very affordable company, and it's one of the reasons why I bought a G2C as my first 9mm actually, because of the fact that at the time they didn't have the G3 or G3C line. Because if they had those, I would have bought one of those probably. But anyway, yeah, I like the G2C quite a bit. The only issue I have with the G2C specifically is the actual little blade thing in the trigger there. Because when I am firing that gun from time to time, it will like pinch my finger while I'm firing it. So it is kind of a pain in the ass to some extent. And I understand why people will do like trigger jobs on those guns, or they'll go with like the G3C instead or whatever. And it's because that G2C does have like that weird trigger in it. But overall, I mean, it's not a bad gun at all, dude, especially for the price is what it is. It's, a sub $300 gun, depending on when it's on sale, be $200 for that matter. So definitely worth the money, honestly. And even like the G3C now is like, I think it's on sale until like a couple days from now or whatever, and that's like under a $250 gun now or so, or it might be right around 250 now. I'm thinking about it. So it's another sub $300 gun is what it is, dude. So yeah, definitely a good line of firearms, dude, is what it is. But it'll be interesting to see, if it's going to be like next year or the year after this when Taurus makes the G5. That's one thing I really want to see, honestly, dude, because it seems to me like with them doing all the rebates and stuff like that, I know that they're trying to phase out, like, I think one of the lines is what it is. So it'd be interesting if you had the GX4 have like another version of that or whatever, but it's like a lot bigger or whatever, a lot more capacity to it or something. And it's just like the G5 or something like that. Like, that'd be pretty sweet. And it would basically be like the Toro optics ready, and maybe even come with like a red dot or something with it. That'd be pretty sweet. So anyway, I really want to get into to shooting handguns with the red dots one of these days, but unfortunately with my financial means right now, unless I hit the lottery this week, I am still a very poor man is what it is, dude. And it's hard to justify buying, a gun that's like 250, $300, whatever, and then buying like a red dot to put on top of it that's like another $100+ or more on like the low end. And of course, like the more expensive ones are at least the same price as the fucking gun in most cases. So it really is one of those situations of like, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in some ways. And in other ways, it's just like, you know, we need to have like affordable at all price points is what it is, dude. And that's why we need to have more manufacturing in America when it comes to Second Amendment stuff, especially like optics and whatnot, dude. So you can actually have like a price point where you can still make a little bit of money off of it, but it's not going to, be one of those things where you're having like steak dinners every single night. It might be like a chicken dinner most night or something like that, dude. Or even like, you know, maybe some stew here and there and stuff like that. Like, you're still making a profit. You're just not making like crazy ass amounts of money on the profit margin. Is what it is, dude. Like, you're making enough to sustain and actually have like a ability to hire people and still make like a little bit of money on top of that. Is what it would be then. But anyway, I don't know. It's hard to say, man. That being said, this is probably going to be one of the last days you're going to see me with this particular haircut, because I plan on getting my haircut in the next couple of days is what it is then. And I noticed we just had somebody else pop in and then pop back out. So I'm kind of wondering if we're going to find another bot here in the next couple of minutes or not, which is not good. But while we are, waiting for that one, I do want to talk about at least one story arc from yesterday, which was obviously something I talked about in the last Grandstand to some extent, which was the whole Biden file thing of, piece of shit potato head. Crisis escalate. Biden aides discover more classified documents at separate location. Of course they do, man. They fucking always do, man. And that's the whole problem entirely, dude. So it's just fucking disgusting, dude. And of course, you had the FAA basically shut down yesterday because of fucking dumbass Mayor Pete basically being transportation secretary there and not knowing a damn thing of what the fuck he's actually doing is what it is, dude. So yeah, the whole place is just falling apart at this point, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, whenever you hear me go like full black pill of like we're pretty much heading towards a Great Depression right now, I'm not bullshit when I say that, dude. I think we seriously are. I think we're seriously in the beginnings of that right now. And it's only a matter of fucking time right now in this country's history until we have, basically the 1930s all over again. And it's, unfortunately now compared to, our grandparents, our great grandparents in many cases, or even great great grandparents, depending on how young you are in this country. A lot of people nowadays don't have the skill sets that those people had, dude, 100 years ago. And it's why a lot of them won't survive. And I've said that before, dude. Like, you can't honestly tell me that these people that are sitting there bitching about like preferred gender pronouns and stuff like that have any kind of way to start their own fire is what it is, dude, and cook up their own meal is what it is, man, or gut any kind of fucking animal to put over a spit or whatever the case be, dude. They have no skill set at all when it comes to survival. They have no reliable survival skills, which honestly is probably a benefit in the long run because it means that most likely they can't shoot for shit. They're obviously not going to be able to hunt for shit. They can't do anything for themselves really, except bitch and moan and whine and complain and stuff like that. And that's probably why they're going to starve to death when it's all said and done, dude. Now, granted, that being said, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. It's probably going to be like a big fucking moniker then. It's going to be Big Daddy government being like, I'll give you these MREs. You just have to go round up these people for us, is what it is, dude. And essentially just have them, potentially be used as target practice or, cannon fodder, if you will, in many cases, because that's what would happen, honestly, dude. People ain't going to put up with a fucking mob coming at their door and stuff like that, dude, and be rounded up like that by a bunch of left-wing nut jobs is what it is, dude. So, good luck to y'all, man, on that one. But I don't know. I don't think our government really gives a fuck about them anyway at this point, dude. Again, they're just useful idiots for them at this point to keep, maintaining power is what it is. So, as I've said before, when it comes to all these, Bolshevik wannabe motherfuckers and the Antifa and BLM and stuff like that know the actual, end game and stuff like that of like, this is how you, essentially create a communist revolution, just like they did back in those days with the Bolsheviks back in the day, before the Holodomor and all that stuff like that with Stalin and, Hitler and fucking Mao and everybody like that, and the genocides and fucking Vietnam with Pol Pot and shit, dude. Who were the first people that were killed after all those overthrowing of governments, dude? It was always the motherfuckers who had to overthrow a fucking government. And that's the entire point. It's like, you really think you're going to be surviving after that? Nah, dude. You're going to be the first ones up against a fucking wall and become a big old cloud of pink mist is what it is, dude. So, You know, that's why I'm such an advocate for the Second Amendment, because it's not that I'm not just trying to save myself. I'm trying to stop these dumb motherfuckers from killing everybody, is what it is, dude. You know, I'm trying to stop you from getting yourself and everybody else killed, is what it is, man. You lefty morons. Like, stop fucking getting in my way and just get on board, is what it is, man. Seriously. Like, we can actually work together in this situation and get things accomplished the correct way, which is nobody has to fucking, you know, be killed by a crazy ass tyrannical government, is what it is, dude. So maybe that's just pipe dream thinking. It probably is at this point, honestly, dude. But you never know, man. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the day. I'm getting a little tired right now. It's almost 3 a.m. my time, so you know, figure I just came on here and shoot the shit for a little bit and discuss a couple things and whatnot, and you know, the crazy ass stuff that was being said on the other dude's panel and stuff like that. And there was a lot of crazy ass shit being said on that panel. Actually, it was funny. The same chick that was sitting there talking shit about, you know, people and children and childbirth and all stuff like that and everything else, and then eventually siding with like the fact that mentorship programs might work and stuff like that. She was really saying some spicy shit like almost every single clip that the dude was showing on that panel, and it's like, you know, sometimes opinions just need to be kept to themselves, man. Like, just need to be kept to the person that they ask them, dude, because it's like, I'm not saying that some of it wasn't funny, but it's just like, geez, man, like, this girl's just an equal opportunity hater of everybody, apparently, is what it sounds like. So, yeah, I don't know, man. And again, I can understand that if you've been legitimately blackpilled to the point where it's just like, you know, what's the point anymore kind of thing, is what it is. And, you know, when you're on a panel with a bunch of dudes and stuff like that, and everybody's talking about fucking, you know, here's the latest 50 fucking shootings out of 50 fucking major cities in this country. They're all Democrat run, but you never talk about that shit, by the way. Or at least most of the panel doesn't anyway. I think one or two of the white guys that come on there from time to time will actually. But even they just sort of glance over it for the most part, it seems like. And yeah, the thing is, when you're not actually calling out like who's running the fucking cities, like that's a solution right there, dude. Stop fucking voting Democrats in the fucking office at all, for that matter. And especially stupid motherfuckers that don't know a damn thing about anything and will just sit there and keep exacerbating the fucking problem instead of actually fixing the fucking problem. Because again, when the solution is law and order and their entire thing is, I can't make a bunch of fucking money off bullshit programs and kickbacks and, you know, government corruption and bribery and stuff like that, if I'm doing all that stuff, then of course they're going to keep doing the same bullshit over and over again, dude. They don't fucking care. They have armed guards around them 24/7. Do you really think they give a fuck about the average citizen being armed when they're literally fucking surrounded by guns 24/7, 365, dude? Hell no. They are a bunch of fucking rich, wannabe elitist motherfuckers in this country, dude, that are just a bunch of fucking scumbags. You know? It's exactly why people like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters both don't even live in their congressional districts in California. They literally live like 20, 30 miles away in some gated ass community, is what it is, dude. And it's like, how the hell are they still in Congress after that, dude? And they're not even living in their congressional district. Like, how is that even legal? Period. And they're not the only ones, by the way. There's others across the board in this nation that do the same exact shit, honestly, dude, in a bunch of different states. And again, it's like, how the fuck are you still in office if you don't live in your fucking congressional district, dude? Fuck you. Get the hell out of office. You know? And it's just like that piece of shit, George Santos now, where you had Republican Party there in New York telling him to resign or whatever the case be. He's like, I'm not resigning. And it's like, nah, bro, boot his ass out of fucking office at this point, dude. Seriously. Like, I don't know if New York has recall voting, but you probably could get it done now, honestly, dude. You got enough pissed off fucking leftists right now. They'd probably be cool with actually enacting it, dude. Now, granted, you have to be smart about it, though, and actually, like, sneak some shit in there to where anybody could be recalled then. So you can just start recalling people like Kathy Hochul and shit after the fact, and, like, AOC and stuff as well, dude. Because that would be fucking awesome. But yeah, I guarantee they'd be on board getting rid of Santos is what it is, dude. So, and the thing is, when you lied about your entire, you know, existence and stuff like that, you shouldn't be in fucking Congress or any position of power for that matter, man. It's like really lie about your upbringing, your background, and stuff like that. Like, what the fuck else are you gonna lie about, or what the fuck else are you gonna do when it comes to introducing legislation or voting on legislation and stuff like that? You're gonna be a scumbag there too. I'll guarantee it, man. So Anyway, at least with people like Cortez or Omar or Talib or whatever the case be, dude, all the squad cunts is what it is. At least those hoes, you actually know where their communist asses stand, or you know where their terrorist asses stand is what it is, dude. So, anyway, needless to say, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. Like I said, we'll be back at some point. I think I have maybe like about 20 minutes left on this account right now for the 20 free hours that they give you a month. So if I come back tomorrow, it'll be on a different under a different account with another free 20 hours is what it is that I already have in place. I just need to flip over to is what it is. And obviously it wouldn't have the this version of Ohio Patriot Education Network on it. It would be a different little icon is what it would be then. So it might be the one that has the frog that has the guns in it. So I need to bring that icon back one of these days. Actually, if I go back to, I think it's my main account that should be free right now. I believe that's the one that has I think it's like Glock or a Glock clone, one of the two in it, and it's basically the holster is the state of Ohio. So I forget where I found that. It was some Facebook page like Ohioans for concealed carry or something like that. It was something somebody put up there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because there's that black and white one, and then there was another one that was like a colored version where it was the state of Ohio as an American flag, basically, which I didn't like as much because it just had like the coloration was just odd looking as what it was for it, and yeah, I think the black and white one is a much better like two-tone coloration is what it is then. So either way, yeah, I'll probably do something here. I don't know if it'll be later today or if it'll be like Friday, maybe. Like I might just bring back the 2A cast on Friday for the first time. This year is what it is. I don't even know what number one at this point, honestly. I realized last night actually when I did that last cast, I completely forgot that I had already done a 112, and I uploaded that one as 112 as well. The one about the Ohio Constitution Protection Act thing. So there's actually two 112s on this channel now that I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get in there and change the 1 to 113 now. Because obviously that's why I labeled this as 114, because we're technically at 114 episodes now is what it is, and the next grandstand will be 115 is what it'll be then. So, but anyway, anywho, yeah, it's interesting to see, people when they start going, full insane, I guess is the best way to describe it, or just like full like, black pill, or like psychotic, like purple pill, I guess is what would be the best way to describe it there, where it's them being like, oh yeah, but this is what people should be running on kind of thing, or whatever the case being. It's like, yeah, that's probably not going to get you elected, man. Like, highly doubt any Republican ever is going to run a thing of like, and this is why forced sterilization should be a thing or something like that, dude, or sterilization and all should be a thing, because it wasn't really forced actually from what they were saying in that panel. It was basically like, and you give them X amount of dollars and force them to sterilize themselves, basically is what it is. But they're, because it's them getting paid, they're not actually being forced to sterilize. It's like you get the money as long as you're willing to sterilize yourself is what it is then. So it's like, it's kind of the same thing as forced sterilization in most cases, dude. Giving government any kind of power to do anything against people, dude, is never a good idea. I'm just gonna say it like it is on that one, dude. So, and it's why I'm pro-life, because again, like, you can't tell me that a newborn child is gonna be evil, dude. You just can't. It's gonna be how that child is raised over the next, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is, dude, before they would get into, sort of a gang life mentality and stuff like that. Or it would just be, no parenting in the house at all, and it's just the streets raising them and stuff like that, kind of environmental uh way of things being done that would put them down that road in society. And like I said, if we can catch these kids before that and actually, keep them on the right path and stuff like that, dude, you can't honestly tell me that there's not a bunch of them that would succeed, is what it is, dude. And even the ones that may have done crimes in the past, dude, like because there was actually one of the mentorship programs there that it was basically an alternative to these kids that have gotten charges. And I think that's a great idea, honestly, dude. If it's like, yeah, if that's your first offense or whatever the case be, and the alternative is like, hey, here's a mentorship program. We know you grew up in a house that never had a father in it. Like, here's a bunch of dudes that are willing to help you out and stuff like that. And they could be, that father figure for you and maybe turn your life around after that, man. Like, that's what needs to be done at this point, honestly, dude. Maybe I'm just being, optimistic or, pipe dreaming and stuff like that or whatever the case is, dude. Maybe it is unrealistic, but it was something to try anyway, for God's sakes, in a mass level, dude, because, it would be one way to combat all this shit, if nothing else, dude. And that's the biggest thing right now is like, there's zero reason to have any of this crap. And yeah, fathers should have rights too, by the way, man. Like, it's ridiculous to me that you have a system right now built 100% that benefits females, mothers, every single time when a father has literally no parental rights at all, basically, in any state in this country, dude. By default. It's always going to be the mother by default, dude. She might be the biggest piece of shit human being ever, dude. But because she was the biological mother of the kid, almost every single time, unless she has a fucking crack pipe attached to her lip in a fucking video or something like that, dude, and you have the video to show the fucking judge and shit, dude, she's going to get custody of them kids. And it's such a fucked up scenario entirely, dude, that we have to put up with this shit because of something a bunch of dumbasses did 100-something years ago is what it was, dude. When they literally created like a bullshit system back then in the 1920s and 30s is what it was, dude. The same exact time period when they started taking away our gun rights and stuff under the NFA and shit, dude. When they started chipping away at our shit back then, when they started confiscating fucking full auto in this country for the first time, 85 years ago, lose what it was now. So, or no, sorry, not 85, 89 years ago now is what it would have been, because it would be 11 years from now. It'd be 2034 is when the 100-year anniversary of the NFA is, actually, because it was 1934 was when it was first enacted, which even back then was unconstitutional, dude. And the only reason it enacted back then is because it was Prohibition era time period, and it was literally the last remnant of Prohibition. Like, everything else went away under the Constitution when Prohibition was overturned and stuff like that, dude, except for fucking gun control. Like, what the fuck, man? And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what we should be fighting that shit on now, even, for that matter, is like stuff like that. Be like, hey, this is a Prohibition era fucking BS law that should have been unconstitutional back then. Like, why wasn't it back then? Let's deem it unconstitutional now is what it is, dude, and fucking get rid of all of it. That's why they talked about short-barreled rifles and shotguns and stuff like that back then, SBRs, SBS, and stuff like that, because you'd have people literally sawing off a fucking shotgun so it could be easily concealed is what it is, dude. Or it would be like a short rifle or whatever then, if that be the case. Actually, one thing I remember was watching, I was rewatching Boardwalk Empire over the summer here, and I forget what season it is in that show, but there is a dude who's talking to the one guy who's like a Prohibition agent or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I got my own setup over here and I'm making all this liquor and this money and stuff like that on the side. And he's like, aren't you worried about getting robbed? And the guy's like, nah, bro, I got a booby trap shotgun behind the door. And that's also, by the way, why you have laws on the books now because of that kind of stuff, because you would have people do that where they'd have essentially a hair trigger and you would have it hooked up to like some shoelace or whatever the fuck it was back then, or some string or whatever. And as soon as somebody popped up in the door, it was like, boom, double barrel to the fucking chest, dude. And actually, if you did that nowadays in any, entrance to your home, you would definitely get tried with murder in this country currently, dude, because it legitimately is. You're essentially doing an ambush point for someone is what it is, dude, that they wouldn't survive. And, but yeah, it's a great episode though in that particular season of that show, and I forget what the actor guy's name is that was part of that series for that particular season, but he's now in the 1923 show that I've been doing reviews on this channel, which I'm going to do another review, by the way, for the latest episode of that show, which was fucking weird as shit the other day. And dude, I'll tell you what, like, fucking for real, like, the latest episode and going back to the previous episodes for the Native American girl storyline and stuff like that, dude, it's legitimately nothing but like beatings. Like, every fucking episode they've had that shit in there, dude. It's basically just like that chick beating somebody up or fucking white people beating her up is what it is, dude. And it's like, is that what they really want us to believe? Like, shit went down that way every fucking time, dude, because I guarantee it didn't back in those days, dude. Like, some of it may have gone on, but not to that extent, dude. Where you had like back and forth, like, just like, oh, this girl's gonna be all defiant, let's beat the fuck out of her, versus like, we've beaten her so much, or whatever the case be, she's now taking revenge on us, kind of thing, is what it is. And it's like, that's just fucking stupid, man. Like, it really was the stupid. It's like the stupidest fucking storyline possible they have in that series, man. At this point, for that particular story arc, is what it is, man. Because it does nothing. It adds fucking nothing to that show at all, dude. And all it does is basically just continue on a bunch of BS, and it like a breakup of the actual good storyline in the show, which is the Dutton family storyline of that Spencer dude and his chick now, and then the rest of the family there in Wyoming. Or wait, is it Wyoming or Montana? I think it's Montana, maybe. I can't remember offhand. Maybe it is Wyoming. I can't remember. Either way, wherever the fuck they're located at there, centrally, it basically is, that weird little breakup between those two storylines is what it is. They're much better off. And like I said, I think what happened was with that Tyler Sheridan before with that shit, dude, is that you had him basically creating two shows that were then combined into one show because they didn't have enough material for either or, is what it was. Like, one would have been like a 3-episode or 4-episode series. The other one would have probably been like 6 episodes. And they're like, well, we need some filler over on this side. Okay, now we can make this like 10 episodes or something like that, is what it was. And it makes sense if they did it that way, is what it would be then. And it makes sense also why you have, that Native American storyline and that whole thing not making any sense at all, is what it is. Because it was basically just like I said before, it's a shoehorned in kind of thing, is what it is, dude. Where it was never meant to be part of the actual series, is what it was. It's kind of like that show, what the hell is that called now? V Wars, where you have like 2 storylines going on in there, but the one was obviously like shot after the other with Laura Vandervoot and shit. Because the initial one is that Ian Somerhalder guy, and it's basically like a 6 or 7 episode show with him in it. And then they basically did like 3 episodes with Laura Vandervoot in it. Then they sort of just started slipping like scene after scene after scene into various episodes of that series. About halfway in is what it is. And then it doesn't make any sense until like the very tail end of the episode, until the very tail end of the series, where the two of them finally meet in the final episode, is what it is, of the season, which eventually became the series finale then, because they didn't renew that show after the first season, which sucks ass too, because it was literally just starting to get good when it was canceled then. So, and I know it's based off of a graphic novel of the same name, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, but yeah, it is like 3 a.m. I got stuff I got to do. We're over an hour into this episode, and I pretty much said everything I want to say, what we're going to talk about today. I really look forward to Black Summer coming back this season, or this sometime this year, which I assume will be more likely in the springtime or maybe end of winter here. And yeah, I know that I think it's this coming weekend, or maybe it's next weekend. I'm not sure. I can't remember if it's either this Sunday or next Sunday is when that Last of Us series is going to be in HBO. Then that should be pretty badass, dude. I never actually played the games, but I know that like that was the one thing I know specifically when that game came out. It was super realistic and stuff like that, dude. And that's one thing I noticed as well too when it came to the more recent Resident Evil video games that I've watched footage of and stuff like that on YouTube and whatnot for like gameplay and shit, dude. Like, they could legit make like a anime movie out of that stuff, dude, because it's that fucking good. Like, it's that realistic, honestly, and it looks badass too, for that matter. I forget which Resident Evil game it was, like a few years back now. It's probably at least 3 to 4 years ago, if not longer than that, maybe even 5 years ago or so. Where it was like I forget what the team was. It was like I don't think it was the Stars team. It was like something even more elite than that or whatever in the Raccoon City area there or whatever. And it was them like chasing down somebody or whatever. And then it's basically them like fighting off the Nemesis or whatever at the very end of the trailer and stuff. And that looked fucking awesome. And I would have loved to see that whole thing be turned into like some badass fucking like anime kind of movie or something like that, dude. Like, I would have watched the shit out of that thing, honestly, dude. Or if it became like an anime series or something like that, that'd be fucking sweet, dude. And that's what always bothered me too when it came to Magic the Gathering as well on that one. Because I'm flipping topics for a minute here, dude. Huge MTG fan and stuff like that, dude. Always have been. I am so pissed off at Wizards of the Coast. They can make all these great trailers for all these different sets that have come out in the past like 5 to 7 years now, but you cannot sit here and honestly tell me that they cannot sit there and make a fucking adult-based cartoon. And when I say adult-based, I mean like violence-wise. Like you could basically just have like graphic, gratuitous violence and stuff like that of random planeswalkers and shit, dude, like fighting each other and whatnot. And it would be like legitimately like, a TVMA or TV 14 or something like that rating for it. And it would be a great fucking series as long as it was done correctly. But the problem is that they don't want to invest that kind of money into it, man. Even though it would make them a fuck ton of money, is what it would be, because you would actually, I believe, bring more people into it at the end of the day, dude. Because you'd have people that weren't, fans of the game initially, be brought into the game, after 20, what is it, like almost 30 years now is what they've been in business for now. I want to say, it was, well, actually, no. Is this 30th anniversary now? I'm thinking about it. I think this year might be actually, I'm thinking about it because I think it was 93 when it first came out now. So, yeah, I think this is the 30th anniversary for Magic now. That's pretty cool. Now I thought about that. Yeah, I think 2023 is the 30th year anniversary. So, yeah, 3 decades later, game's still going to some extent. And, you can't tell me you wouldn't be able to bring another generation of people into it somehow because, people would just love watching the anime and stuff like that. And people like me that are actually already into the lore and shit, dude, it would allow us to see other things come forth in the series and stuff. And they could basically do like different seasons based on different fucking planes that people were in, dude. You could have one based in Dominaria for a season. You could have one based in uh New Phyrexia or something like that another season, or fucking Innistrand or something like that for a third season, or even like parts of a season for that matter, or hell, you could have like the entire first series just based in Ravnica, for God's sakes, dude. And it's just like and essentially what it would be is you would have it start like maybe 20 years back or something like that, and then like throughout the episodes it goes from there all the way through to where you had the War of the Spark storyline and stuff like that, dude, because they've had like I think it's 3 or 4 different uh blocks that are based in Ravnica now in the game's history. And I want to say the last one was the War of the Spark set, and that was a few years ago now. But that's the entire point, man. You could have easily some cool shit like that, is what it is, man. Where it would be something like that, and it would make sense of like, okay, this is what was going on this whole time, and this is where Nicobolas is at, and like doing his fucking plans and stuff, and this is how he's got it, like is how he's got um Tesseract, and I think it's Tesseract, and Circumval and stuff like that on the side in these cases and whatnot, and like it's like a whole cool thing is what it would be, man. Which I remember actually, nostalgia wise, Magic the Gathering, FNMs and stuff like that was living in Columbus a decade ago, a little over a decade ago now, actually. Uh, Played a couple of them there at the shop that was, I'm not going to lie, dude. There was no bus lines to this fucking game shop, dude. It was out in the fucking ghetto area of the fucking city. Like it was on like the south side of Columbus, and that was the fucking ghetto. Um, I did not feel safe at that place, dude, when I was there. Like I was packing a knife back then, and I'm glad I was packing a knife back then, dude, because shit almost popped off the one time I was there. But yeah, that place was very, very fucking hood. And um what was I gonna say then? Yeah, I was playing a deck at the time. This was back when I'm trying to think what the sets were in place at the time. It was I'm trying to remember which set Sarkin the Mad was in, because it was a 5 mana planeswalker. It was I believe it was 5 mana. It was a 3, a red and a black. It started out at 7. Um, yeah, it started out with 7 loyalty counters on it, and then the first ability that cost 0, I believe is what it was. You could basically flip a card from the top of your deck, and if it wasn't a land, if it was like a permanent or whatever, it just went on the battlefield or something like that. And you, or no, if it wasn't a land, you lost the amount of loyalty counters equal to its mana cost, and it went into your hand, I believe is what it was. And if it was a land, I want to say it went on the battlefield, or maybe it went to the bottom of the deck, and then you revealed until you actually found something. Is what it was. I forget what the actual ability was offhand because it's been so long since I played it. But so I was playing like the first round or two, and there was some chick I was playing against in one of the first couple of rounds. Is what it was, who had no idea what this fucking thing did, and so I was sitting there just playing the deck, and this is all shit I built is what it was at the time. And so I had this like little board of dudes that were defending and whatnot. And I sat there and played a shuriken, and I'm just like, and she's like, what does that do? And I'm just like, oh, it does this, this, and this. She's like, okay. And I'm like, okay, activate the first ability. And I flip the top card of my deck, and it's like a 2-mana dude or whatever. And it's like goes in my hand immediately. That loses 2 counters and stuff like that. And the thing is, with those kind of games, when you have something like that, at least back then anyway, your instinct is you take out that threat immediately, because if you don't take out that threat that gives somebody card advantage like that, dude, especially in that kind of coloration, to where they could have stuff like terminates and shit, 'cause I think that was legal back then as well. You're gonna be fucked pretty soon after that, is what it is, dude. And she let me have that fucking planeswalker on the field for at least 3 turns before she realized when the second one came down that it was finally a fucking threat, because the first one ended up knocking its own self out with loyalty counter removal and stuff like that, is what it was from those abilities. And yeah, when I played the second one, she's like, I probably should deal with that now. I'm like, yeah, you probably should. You probably should know the first one, honestly. But yeah, that's the thing, dude. That's when you teach people stuff back in them days, dude. And what I've done throughout the game's history is what it was I would always build like off the wall shit, and people wouldn't understand what the hell it was built around or whatever. And then when they figured out, like, when they weren't that experienced or whatever, and figured out like what exactly I was trying to do or whatever, they would just be like, okay, that's done now. So yeah, it's just funny, man. But yeah, thinking back now, it was fun times being down there. And obviously I met some people that are, actually making the game nowadays. I met people like Sam Stoddard down there when he was just a college student and stuff, and he was a good dude. I met another young guy through him named Isaac, who I don't know whatever happened to that guy. I think he just sort of disappeared or went his own way, is what it was, or whatever. Uh, Never have really heard back from him in the last several years. Now, actually, there's only one. No, I'm sorry. There's 2 guys that I'm still Facebook friends with from that time period. Uh, that are still good dudes and stuff like that. Who, if I went down there and just for like a trip or whatever the case be, and I knew for a fact they were going to be like hanging out at some shop, whatever the case be, I'd just go to a shop and just hang out with them and bullshit with them for about an hour or two, maybe. And it's because they're just a good guys, is what it is, dude. They never did me wrong. They were always, decent to me. They never, like, it's one of the, again, when you talk about Facebook friends and stuff like that, it's not like one of those things where it's like every birthday they're going to be like, oh, happy birthday, bro, or whatever the case be, because none of them wished me happy birthday the other day, is what it was, but doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, we've had conversations off and on over the years and stuff like that, and like Facebook posts and direct messaging and stuff like that. So I still consider them to be friends anyway, and they were, like I said, they were good dudes. But yeah, there were some people down there that were just straight up assholes, is what it was, dude. And there, honestly, what's funny is I remember when I was living down there and I went to one of the Grand Prix that summer, and that was the summer I was almost beaten to death to in that alleyway. That was when I left the convention center that Sunday night and didn't realize the buses weren't running. Not going to get into that story though. I've told that story a few times now. I'm not going to tell it again. But needless to say, it was two dudes of minority status who almost killed me that night. And thank God I was able to run and have weapons on me. Otherwise, I might have been dead that night. But anyway, that being said, I met a lot of guys down there at the time that were pro people and stuff like that, or pro players and stuff like that are now, various Star City people and whatnot. Some of them were good people. Todd Anderson and his wife were both good people. I think her name was Kaylee or Callie or something like that. They were both awesome people. AJ Zocker was a fucking great guy, dude. That dude was awesome. Brad Nelson, I met in passing. He came off as a pretty good dude.
Tom Ross, who I'm actually Facebook friends with still, which we haven't really talked much at all, but I had about a 10-minute conversation with him down there. He seems like a pretty good guy, honestly. I'm trying to think now. A couple of the Asian dudes who have now been exposed as cheaters were scumbags even back then, which makes sense because they were fucking cheating back then, obviously. Uh, and then I'm trying to think who else now I met down there that was not. I met Brian Kibler at the time down there. I actually interviewed him for the channel back in the day when this was called a different channel and it was different stuff back then. It might still be on the. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I privated that stuff now or not. I think maybe I privated those videos now. But yeah, he wasn't a bad dude at the time, but I know for a fact now he's gone very hard lefty, and politically, we are complete opposites at this point in history. So I would never sit down and have dinner with the man. I'll tell you that much right now. Um, I may have back then just because I didn't know any better is what it was, but nowadays it would be a no go just because it's like, nah, bro, when you're donating to things that are actively trying to fuck me over, like, fuck you is what it is, kind of thing. Patrick Chapin's a good dude. I will say that, man. He is actually one of the better people. He gave me a fucking ride back to my apartment back then, dude. He didn't have to do that either, by the way, especially after I said some stuff when we were about to leave and kind of made a rift between him and Ruben Bressler back in those days. So I think they eventually patched it up, and I didn't mean to really say anything. I thought it was like a known thing to Chapin at the time. That's why I said it what I said. And if I had known it wasn't, like, I would have just kept my mouth shut, is what it was, dude. But it was the autism kind of taking over then, Um, and the thing is, like, specifically what I was talking about back in those days was I was at, I forget if it was a states tournament or if it was just some like um what you call it, for like a GP qualifier or something like that is what it would have been then at the convention center one year. And I was just like bullshitting, I was just walking around. And the thing is, like, you had like 6, 7 guys sitting around and like this, it wasn't even a corner. It was like, if you had the corner over here, they were sitting like here in like the first or second row is what it was. Like, just like sort of bullshitting. And they were talking loud enough for people that would walk by to like hear their conversation and stuff like that. So I was just like, I was actually, because the whole point I went over there was because I was going to interview Ruben Bresler at that time, because he was one of the first people I interviewed down there when it came to magic stuff. And it was me walking over to go, say, hey, if you want to do the interview now, I got some time or whatever the case be, or if you want to do it a little bit later, like, let me know or whatever. And I forget exactly who it was that said something, and it was basically them talking about Patrick Chapin. And I think it was Bresler was the one that was like basically leading the conversation at the time or whatever, like telling the story of like, oh yeah, and this is how Chapin had like supposedly had a bunch of money like hidden in some fucking place in like Detroit, Michigan, of like drug sales that he had done back in the day and shit, which was all lies, by the way. And I know Chapin did do time in prison for, I forget, I don't know if it was drug related things or not, or if it was something else entirely. But it's like, the man did his time. He has a past. We all have a past, dude. Like, he's a good dude still, In my opinion, he's one of the better Magic players out there, dude. He still is to this day, honestly. He has a lot of good insight on stuff, man. And, to sit there and be like, oh, but this is like all this fucking hidden money or whatever the case be, and like, saying it loud enough for people to overhear you, and like somebody walks up on you and you just continue to fucking conversation with them, like listening into the fucking conversation, it's like, of course, I was going to come out at some point, dude. And it just happened to come out that night when I was hanging out Chapin then. But yeah, he was super pissed all the way on the ride back to my apartment. And like you could just see like the fucking fumes coming off of his like fucking face, man. I was just like trying to be like, okay, it's up here, bro. And like as soon as I got out of the car, he's just like, you don't by chance know what Ruben's number is, dude? And I'm like, I have no idea right now, dude, because I don't think I did at the time, honestly. And yeah, then I got like a fucking Facebook message like a couple hours later, the next day or whatever it was, from Ruben Bressler being like, why the fuck you say that shit, bro? It's just like, I don't know. Why the fuck did you talk loud enough at a fucking random Magic event for me to overhear you, dude? Like, that's the better question you should be asking yourself at that point, But yeah, Ruben was not a bad dude though. He was pretty good guy, and that's what it was. And you know, um I don't know if we've ever really spoken after that whole thing though, is what it was. And I have talked to Chapin a couple times since then, even actually, and he seemed like he was whatever. Like he kind of remembered me, but not really, is what it was. And yeah, like I said, there's some of those dudes that are good guys, and there's other people that are just complete scumbags, is what it is, dude. But I think more back then, it was more good people because again, it was not politically like it is now, and you didn't really talk politics with people back then. It was basically just like, hey, how's this on the game, or what's your insight on this card in the game, or whatever the case be. And it's, it is what it is. You're playing a fucking card game, is what it is, dude. And you should be focusing on that, is what it is then. So, but yeah, needless to say, I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed a lot of the interviews I did back then. The only thing I am glad about when I lived in Columbus was I was able to have that experience with that kind of stuff because it brings back those memories of like, hey, that was a good time. I had those days and stuff like that, you know. And then there were other times where it's just like, you think back to then and you're just like, yeah, that's fucked up. Like I know there's a card I have from Steve Prescott that he just totally fucking butchered with his signature on it, dude. Because unlike people like Matt Cavada or um, I'm trying to think of the one guy's name is Chris. I know his last name starts with a C as well, and I can't remember what it is. He's an artist. They always sign their signature at the bottom. Prescott would sign it like right over the fucking text, dude. And I'm just like, bro, come on, man. Because I had to stop him like partway through the one signature. I'm like, bro, lower down or whatever. And he just like signs like directly over the fucking rest of the text. Then and I'm just like, God damn it, Steve. So actually, one of the best interviews I had with any Magic artist was Eric DeChamps, dude. That guy was fucking awesome. He was the first dude I ever did that was an artist, and it was when he was first coming up then, dude. He was very humble back then, and as far as I'm aware, he's still humble to this day. And yeah, he was just a good dude all around, man. I would like to interview him again one of these days, honestly, if I ever could. Or maybe not interview him, but like just hang out with him and stuff like that and get his insight and stuff like that as an artist again and see if anything's really changed or whatever. Because, like I said, he was always a good dude, and he didn't have to, but there was a couple of cards that I had at the time that were that were his specific artwork and stuff like that, and I will never ever trade or sell these cards because he legit made them in such a way where it was a thing just for me, and he did like all kinds of cool stuff to them, and like made like there was one. It was I forget what it's called. I forget what the actual card is called offhand, but it's like a 2 colorless and a red mana, and you basically steal a dude's creature, tell him to turn or whatever. It's been made a bunch of times, whatever. He did one of the artworks for that back in like I think it was M10 or something like that, and I had one of the versions of it. And what he did to that, because it's like an angel on the artwork, or whatever, he took the pen that he had for signing stuff, and he was doing like all kinds of like squiggly artwork to it and whatnot. And he actually made it like a really cool like flamey wings is what it is for it. And he did that to a couple different artworks and stuff like that because he even asked me before he did. He's like, "You're cool with me just fucking with these, right, or whatever?" And I'm like, "That's fine, dude, cool." And yeah, he made like a couple different ones where he would do like the one that's like some dude that's like a white creature card or whatever that's not it's just like a bulk common or whatever. And it's like some dude like doing like a staff shot or something out is what it is. And he put like all kinds of like little like essentially like magical um like blasts or whatever in the artwork then as well with the pen and shit. So yeah, he did some cool shit for me. And like I said, those are one of ones at this point, dude. And the way I look at him is that stuff to me that's like very close to my heart is what it is. And to me, it's like, yeah, you made that for me. Like I'm gonna keep that forever, is what it is. If nothing else is gonna go. That's gonna be passed down to my child, is what it is at some point, or one of my children anyway. Probably my firstborn, if that be the case, or whichever one of my whichever one of the kids likes magic the most, I guess it would be then, dude. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, very nostalgic, is what I'm gonna say, dude. And looking back, living in Columbus, I will say this, dude. The city sucks. It sucked then. It sucks now. But the times I had in it at that time when I was going to college were some of the funnest experiences I had. Now, granted, it would have been even funner having I had my funding cut when I was going to college and actually being able to get a fucking degree instead of being put in a catch 22 where it's like, oh, we're going to cut your fucking funding. And then, oh, we're going to tell you, hey, if you want to get your funding reinstated, you have to pay for your own fucking classes now and be able to show that you can hold like this much of a fucking average or whatever the case be, where you have no money at all because every fucking dollar that's being paid for your rent and your fucking food money right now and stuff like that comes from this fucking actual student loans that we're giving you currently, which is exactly why I live back here now, is what it is, dude. Because they literally cut my fucking funding halfway through my fucking degree because I had failed one class. I believe it was what was one quarter, and then it was the next quarter after that. I ended up having to drop a class because it fucked up the rest of my classes. What it was then, and because of that, they're like, "Oh, well, you did too much, or whatever the case be, and now we're gonna fuck you over the next go round." Is what it is, dude. And they did. So, needless to say, it sucks ass. But and that's why I hate the fact that I'm in student loan debt to this day, honestly, dude. Because it's like I would have. Here's the thing: I would have no problem repaying that money if I actually got a degree from that whole thing. I did not because they fucked me over and stopped me from getting a degree, is what it was, dude. So it's like, really, honestly, I should know I'm a fucking dime at this point, honestly, is what it is, dude. And the thing is, like, there's only a couple of things I remember from like a course or two down there. So it's like, hey, if I'm gonna pay you back anything, I'm gonna pay you back whatever the fuck those courses cost, and then go fuck yourself, is what it is, dude. Because that would only be like a few $100s, not like fucking 25 grand, I think is what it is. And I'm in debt right now, which half of which, more than half actually at this point, is all fucking bullshit ass fucking interest that's been accrued over the past decade now. So yeah, that's my biggest problem. If it was just like the initial stuff that I was like, say it like this, right? If it was like 10 grand or whatever, which I think was what it initially was or so, maybe 11,000, something like that, that I would have owed of what I actually took from my classes and stuff like that, dude, I would have no problem paying that back if I had that kind of money to pay back, is what it is, which I don't, by the way. But if I did, I would have no problem paying that back, is what it is, dude. The problem I have is paying back this bullshit ass fucking interest that's now doubled what it fucking should be for my actual money that I took to actually go to school, is what it was, dude. So yeah, it's a bunch of shit all the way around. And I realized after the fact that when it came to everything down there, like I totally fucked myself, not even realizing it when I went down there because the real problem is, and I lasted a lot longer than I would have because I was a full time student. The problem is, I actually need to be a full time student and also be working to actually pay for rent and meals and everything else like that. Because it's why I went into credit card debt as well back then. And it's not fun. It's not fun to have your credit score be shit now because you basically had to do a bunch of stuff to get a bunch of credit card debt written off, is what it is, dude. So I'm not going to go into detail on that one, by the way, but yeah, some shit happened there, is what it was, dude. And the worst thing is when you look back at what I was actually paying, what I was actually getting on those credit cards, it was literally food purchases, dude. It was me going to fucking grocery stores and getting like a week's worth of fucking food to make at home for meals. And because I didn't have a full time job to actually like pay off the credit card, I didn't have enough money in my fucking thing after all the student loan shit, is what it was, dude. For my tuition and everything else like that. It was only like enough to cover my rent, then is what it was. So everything after that was basically being accrued as debt, is what it was on a credit card. So yeah, there was after like the first, I think it was like the first month or so, I could have paid like the first month off or whatever. And I think I did at one point, and then I was like pretty much like negative money at one point in time. And then everything after that was just fucked. So yeah, it sucks, man. It does. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing nowadays again as well in 2023 here. We're seeing people who are now not even being able to live paycheck to paycheck because they're having to basically put shit on credit cards or whatever the case be there. They know they can never pay off, is what it is, dude. And it's not even keeping up with the Joneses anymore in a lot of people's cases. It's literally just them trying to fucking like eat for that week before they get paid again. So yeah, it's a bunch of shit, dude, entirely. And that's the one big problem again with living in a major city as well, because even back then, like I remember I was living there for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at the time, if that be the case. Because I think I moved down there in like August of the one year. and then I'd come back home for Christmas that year. And I was living down there for that few months, and I was looking at grocery prices. I'm like, this stuff seems a little bit higher than it should be. And then I came home here and went to a grocery store around here, and I'm like, bro, the shit in Columbus is like twice as expensive as everything here. And it's just bullshit entirely, dude. And that's unfortunately what you see in every major city in this country, honestly, dude. It's all the stuff that has to be basically shipped in by truck and stuff like that. And so they're going to jack up the price on you every time, is what it is, dude. It's also why when major cities fall in this country, that's why you're going to have cannibalism rise like fucking crazy, is what it is. So, anyway, but that's another story for another day. We've actually talked about that a few times with Cannibal Monday and stuff like that, with the Great Depression kind of thing. And that's all I'm going to say about the end of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all in the next one, which might be a 2A podcast this Friday, or it might be another Grandstand sometime today or sometime Friday morning. I'm not sure which at this point, but either way, I will be back at some point here doing some stuff, getting some things done, doing what needs to be done, and shooting the shit. So, anyway, till later. I will see you all in the next one.